The LA Clippers had probably their craziest game of the season on Monday night in the second game of their 5-game East Coast road trip against the Detroit Pistons. Why was it so hard? Why did it take a miraculous 14-point comeback Clipper performance in the last 3 minutes to force overtime and get it done? Going to be talking about the good and the bad on today's Locked On Comeback Clippers.
Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I am your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. And, of course, subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I'll be resuming basketball content this week. You can also subscribe to Locked On Clippers and answer today's pinned question, which is, what is the biggest issue to you with this team right now? I want to know what that is. And I don't want it to be that the stuff, you can't say health anymore because everybody's healthy now. So and I'm really enjoying it. Make no mistake. Clippers getting a miraculous win in this one on the road against the Detroit Pistons, 142-131 in overtime. And boy, oh boy, I think that every win in the NBA is a good win. Make no mistake about it. But the Clippers did not play well in this game. And the crazy part is, a lot of individuals played well, but I don't think that they collectively played very well as a team. I'm going to be talking about that as we go through this episode. Going to start with the good, how the Clippers even made the run. So it was a pretty neck-and-neck game the whole way. The Detroit Pistons outscored the Clippers by 5 in the first quarter. Clippers outscored them by 10 in the second. They had a 5-point lead going into the break, and then it was a third quarter, I don't want to even call it a meltdown, but just total taking your foot off the gas, complacency from the Clippers, very similar to what we saw in the last game against Philadelphia. And the Pistons outscored them 39-30. Going to be going more in depth about all that in the second segment. But in the fourth quarter, the Clippers went down by 14. And with 3 minutes left, Ty Lue waved the white flag. And I was ready to come on here on the mic and just be very frustrated because there were a lot of things that went wrong for the Clippers. And it would have been one of the most disappointing losses of the season, in my opinion, because even though Kawhi Leonard didn't play, it was a back-to-back, he's missing the first game, which I think is the right decision because the Clippers are playing Toronto on Tuesday, and not only are they a much better team than Detroit, that's also a big game for Kawhi, the place where he won a championship. And the Toronto Raptors fans, from a fan perspective, they're paying a lot of money for those tickets. The Raptors tickets are some of the most expensive in the league, and that's Kawhi Leonard, who won them a championship and was their finals MVP. So I know that ticket's going to be expensive, so it's great that Kawhi plays just for the fans. But the Clippers needed to win this game, in my opinion. I think it's time, as I talked about in the last episode, Nico Batum said it's after Christmas. He said, don't expect anything too crazy until Christmas. Well, now it's the 26th, and it's time to start kicking it into gear. And I think that at the end of the day, the Clippers getting the job done was absolutely huge. Despite all the bad things that happened in this game for the Clippers, they pulled it out, and you've got to admire the resilience from the guys. Now, Ty Lue with 3 minutes left basically empties the bench. He goes to Moses Brown, Nico Batum, Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, and I believe Luke Kennard. And it was a classic example of the Pistons kind of taking their feet off the gas as well. In my opinion, I think they had it. I think that they thought that they had it won. It was Norman Powell. It wasn't Luke Kennard. And Norman Powell was actually the guy that started the run. When the Clippers were down 112 to 126, I thought the game was over. Clippers go on a 16-2 run in the last 3 minutes after they literally waved the white flag by putting in Moses Brown and Amir Coffey, who did not play in the entire game. And yes, Robert Covington did not play again in this game, and I'm going to be talking about that much more as the episode continues. But Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, Moses Brown, and Nico Batum. What's interesting about that lineup? You've got a center. You've got 3 wing players. 4 really if you count Norman Powell, depending on what you consider him, guard or wing. But you got Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, and Nico Batum. All 3 guys can switch on to basically anybody on the court. And you started to see some misses. Norman Powell hit the first 3 that made it an 11-point game. And then Amir Coffey got in on the act with a dunk from a Terrence Mann assist. And then the real one that stuck out to me was the Nico Batum transition 3 to make it a 127-123 game with just a minute and a half to go. And that's when you knew the Clippers could really be pulling another edition of the comeback clips in this one. And I actually admire that Ty Lue didn't put Paul George right back in the game when the Pistons called timeout with a minute and a half left, because he said, I'm just going to roll with the guys that made this run. And Luke Kennard, he came in the game for Norman Powell. Actually, okay, so I wasn't tripping when I said Luke Kennard. I forgot about this. Luke Kennard came into the game at the 2:08 mark when the Clippers were still down 117 to 127. So even though Norman Powell made the first 3, it was Luke Kennard that made the run. That was part of the run for a larger portion. And Luke obviously made 2 free throws to cut the deficit in half to a 2-point game with a minute left, and you just felt like the Clippers were either going to win or send it to overtime at that point because the Pistons just aren't a good team. They were 8-27 going into this game, and mind you, Cade Cunningham, their number 1 overall pick from the 2021 draft, is out for the season, so I hope he gets well soon. He was having a really solid sophomore season before he got hurt. It's been a lot more Killian Hayes, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey for the Detroit Pistons of late. And the Clippers had a chance, down by 2. They put Paul George back in the game with 26 seconds left. And Paul George, who was perfect from the foul line, missed 1 of 2 free throws late in the game in that last 30 seconds. But thankfully, Killian Hayes missed a free throw as well. So it was still a 2-point game at 128 to 126. And then a very ugly final possession turned into a Terrence Mann mid-range right elbow jumper to tie the game. What a big shot by Terrence. What more can you say about this guy? He is just the man for the big occasion. He truly is. The bigger the moment, the bigger this guy gets. He was part of the run again in this one. And it's just his defensive effort and energy and obviously his length and athleticism that does so much for the Clippers on either end of the floor. He really helps the transition game. And I'm really, really appalled that he only played 21 minutes in this game and was a plus 28, the best plus minus of any Clipper. The guy just is that guy. Like I keep saying it, and I've said it year in, year out. Terrence Mann should not just be a complimentary piece for the Clippers that plays deferring minutes every night based on the situation. He is a guy that needs to be playing 20-plus minutes per game regardless of opposition. Because you know what? In playoff basketball, the game favors the way Terrence Mann plays more than others. Do you know why? Because he's a switchable wing that can guard. And at the end of the day, defense wins championships. And the Clippers are top 5 in the league in defensive rating. They currently were 3rd going into this game. And allowing 128 points to a Cade Cunningham-less Detroit Pistons team is not acceptable for a team that has set that standard defensively, at the very least this season. Even though it hasn't been a pretty season so far for the Clippers, as they stand at 20-15 right now in late December, they are still in 4th seed. The one thing you could say that's been good is the defense overall. Tonight it wasn't the case, and I'm going to be talking about why that wasn't the case coming up. BetOnline.net is your number 1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. On Tuesday, it's not a very crowded slate of games, but the Lakers are playing the Orlando Magic in Orlando. And considering the way Orlando's been playing and the way the Lakers have been playing, I may have to take the Magic in that one. Right now, they're -4, and the spread is -111. So take your chances on the Orlando Magic. How about the Washington Wizards and the Philadelphia 76ers? Right now, the line is -4.5 for the Sixers, and the Sixers have been playing great basketball of late, as Clipper fans should know. So I would honestly place my bet on them, and where you're going to do that again is Bet Online. That's where you get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college football, bowl season, to basketball and soccer. We've got it all on betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen today. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. The biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's Take of the Day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, I'm going to be real with you. This was not a good performance of the Clippers at all as a team. Let's look at the individual performances. I thought Nico Batum was really good. Even though he was 2 for 8, he was really good, and I'll explain why in the last segment. Marcus Morris, very solid to me. Overall, 16 points, 5 for 10 from the field, and 3 for 7 from deep. Was efficient. Defense has been declining of late, I will say. Got beat off the bounce a couple of times in this one. The one that sticks out to me was when Isaiah Stewart just took one dribble and got a floater right over him. Ivica Zubac, I thought he was a little bit slower in this game. Just looked a step behind and made some mental mistakes in this one. Not one of Zoo's best games to me. I also thought that the opposing center, Jalen Duren, played better than him, even though Ivica Zubac still had 12 points and 15 boards, but he didn't block a shot, and he wasn't the same presence on defense that he normally is. He played 41 minutes in this game, which led the Clippers, and I don't personally think that is good considering the amount of minutes he's been playing and that he just came back from an injury. I don't want Zoo to be overworked. He's definitely been the most overworked player on this team this season. Reggie Jackson. He was very good tonight. Very good. And it started out in the beginning. 5 for 5 to begin the game for him. And you know why? Because he was sticking to the basics. 2 catch-and-shoot threes. He got a fast break layup. And then he had an 18-footer on a pick and roll where the defense just miscommunicated and left him wide open. He didn't do anything too crazy. He missed one shot after that, but the main reason why he was like that and had 14 points efficiently was because Ty Lue only played him 19 minutes, which is what we've been asking for. Just to limit Reggie's minutes so that he's not as big of a negative factor in the team. Because I like seeing Reggie succeed. That was great. Paul George. Very good game from him because of the overtime, though, which he wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to have if not for guys like Norman Powell, who had 16 points in 22 minutes efficiently, 7 for 12. Thought he had a solid game. Moses Brown only played 3 minutes, but was plus 12 in those minutes. So shout out to Moses Brown. Came in, got 3 points, 3 rebounds. And then John Wall, who I thought had a really good first half, not a great second half, but he was efficient in this game. 6 for 11 from the field and 4 for 6 from 3. Had some good and bad moments on the defensive end. I thought in the first half there was a really nice contest he had at the rim where he was vertical. Had a nice contest getting over a screen against Alec Burks. But then there was a time in the second half where he went underneath the screen on Alec Burks and got burned with a 3. He also had 5 turnovers. But 5 assists as well, but a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio is no good. So John Wall needed to do a better job taking care of the ball, and the Clippers need to do a better job taking care of the ball. 19 turnovers to 17 in this game. 19 to 17. 19 is unacceptable, but the thing is that's a thing that we've seen from the Clippers too far this season, a trend. They turn the ball over too much, and John Wall with 5 needs to do better. But if it's a Zubac with 4 as the center, he needs to do better. And a couple of those were those mental lapses, like one at the end of the third quarter where he just didn't wait 1 second longer for John Wall to get across half court, and he threw the ball to him early, and it was a backcourt violation. I'm not even sure if that turnover was credited to Zoo or to John Wall, but it was a turnover that it was definitely Zoo's fault. And then another giveaway later in the game. But Terrence Mann, as I said already, 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, no turnovers, plus 28, the highest of anyone. And then Amir Coffey, similar to Moses Brown, only played those 3 minutes, 2 points plus 12. And then Luke Kennard, 32 minutes played, 18 points and 5 rebounds, and a little homecoming for him. Of course, Detroit Pistons, the team that drafted him, 6 for 12 from the field and 4 for 8 from deep. So when I talk about all these guys individually, it seems like most of them had good games. How the heck could they only beat the Pistons in this kind of an effort where they have to come back from 14 down with 3 minutes left and win in overtime like that? Well, I think in the beginning of the game, you saw Killian Hayes make like 3 threes. He was 4 for 7 from deep in this game. And the Detroit Pistons shot 47% from 3 in this one. The Clippers shot 43%. So when the Clippers shoot that well, 54% from the field and 43% from 3 and 86% from the free throw line, and still it takes this much to beat the Pistons without Cade Cunningham, it tells you that the defense wasn't good enough. And Killian Hayes in the beginning, I understand the Clippers leaving him open for threes. Every single game I've watched him play, he doesn't hit, his jumper just doesn't look good at all. He's shooting 31% this regular season, and the last 10, people have been telling me he's played a lot better, but the last 10 games, he's shooting 26% from deep. So based on the numbers, the Clippers giving up those threes when they were playing their normal pick-and-roll defense was okay. But he was making them pay, and I think that was part of the reason why the Pistons got off to a pretty good start. PG started out 0 for 3, but I like how he did not just stop shooting. He continued to be aggressive, and he made his next 3. And he was giving Bojan Bogdanovic the business in this game. And Paul George giving Bojan Bogdanovic the business is nothing new. Us Clipper fans remember and cherish the memories of Paul George giving Bogdanovic the business in the second round in 2021 against the Utah Jazz. But Paul George made his next 3 shots to be 3 for 6, and he shot 8 shots in the first quarter, which I liked. Only shot 1 in the second quarter, which I didn't like. But it was okay because the Clippers were up 5 at halftime. Here's the biggest problem. The biggest problem. And it's what I've been talking about the last couple games, and it was on full display tonight. And in my opinion, this is the biggest reason the Clippers almost lost this game. And I hate doing this. I truly despise doing this because it's a player's sport, basketball. It truly is. But Tyronn Lue is not having a good season as a coach, in my opinion. He is not putting these players in the position to succeed a lot of times with these lineup decisions that he's making, putting too many guards out there at once. In this game, he did it multiple times, starting with the first quarter when he brought in 3 guards right away. John Wall, Norman Powell, and Luke Kennard with Paul George at center. And immediately when he did that, Jalen Duren for the Detroit Pistons was eating the Clippers up on the inside. He was getting offensive rebounds, finishing around the rim. There was no resistance because not only do you not have a rim protector, you have 3 defenders that at best they're solid. Luke Kennard has probably been the most solid of John Wall, Norman Powell, and himself on defense this season, and at best you say solid. They are not good defenders per se, all 3 of them. And then you have Paul George playing center. I thought we were a defense-first team. It's just not it. And the Clippers were down by 5 at the end of the first quarter. Now, John Wall, second quarter, thought he was doing good things as I described. Pushing the ball, driving and kicking. He got an assist to Luke Kennard for a 3. Should have gotten another assist to Terrence Mann for a 3. And he also, I talked about John Wall making defenses pay when teams go underneath the screen. He hit a jumper with a dude going underneath the screen and then hit an open 3. So John Wall hitting his open 3s, I personally, even though I like it, I don't want him to get too confident shooting the 3 ball because I still believe that he's not a very good 3-point shooter and shouldn't be shooting them. But those mid-ranges, when teams go underneath the screen, he's got to make those, and I like how he hit that. But the Clippers were still small even when John Wall came out. Reggie Jackson came in for him, and it was Reggie Jackson, Norman Powell, and Luke Kennard. It's too small. And when you have Zubats out there with Terrence Mann at power forward and then those 3 guards, it's just holding the Clippers back defensively, truly. And then to end the quarter, the Clippers went bigger with Marcus Morris, Nico Batum, Paul George, Zubats, and Nuke. And that's a big lineup right there. Luke Kennard is now your smallest player at 6'5". You have 3 wing players that can switch, and then Zoo. And immediately the Clippers started doing better. You started seeing the Clippers make the extra pass, finding shooters, and Marcus Morris had 5 points towards the end of the half. With the 4-point play. He had 2 in this game. 2 4-point plays for Senior. And in the end of the second quarter, a nice bank shot going left to put the Clippers up 66-61, if I'm not mistaken. And John Wall also had another 3-pointer on good ball movement. He had an open 3 in the left corner, and that's why the Clippers had a 5-point lead going into half. So overall, my biggest criticism from the Clips in the first half was that small ball, too much small ball, too much 3 guards. And in the third quarter, they completely took their foot off the gas. Completely. But Paul George and Marcus Morris Sr. started the quarter really well. Sr. had his second of the 4-point plays, like I mentioned. Paul George was being more aggressive and really attacking Bogdanovic one-on-one, and he was getting what he wanted. But then you started to see the Clippers get complacent and get careless. And it started with them turning the ball over, starting with Paul George, who was about to lose the ball, and then he still tried to dribble out of it instead of picking the ball up and passing, lost the ball. Detroit made the Clippers pay on that. And then so you look at John Wall's plus-minus, right? I know a lot of people are going to say that he was minus 26, the worst on the team. The funny part is he was actually even or only like minus 1 at half. But when he came in, the Clippers, Marcus Morris Sr. had just turned the ball over. The Clippers got a technical foul, and then Alec Burks made a 3 right when John Wall went under that screen. Immediately, it's an 8-point game, and the Pistons start to have momentum. And right within a couple of minutes, Ty Lue goes to the small guards again. The Pistons went on a 21-3 run. It was John Wall, Norman Powell, Luke Kennard with Paul George and Senior. And the Pistons were getting what they wanted. They were switching a ton. Same old story. And John Wall was getting careless with the ball in that second half. Paul George wasn't the best with the ball either. And the Pistons led 92-91. Paul George had 3 turnovers. The Clippers were getting crushed on the glass, which, again, not shocking at all. You also saw them just go cold, the natural momentum. Norman Powell and Luke Kennard each missed open 3s. You started to see the Pistons double Paul George, forcing the Clippers to, swing the ball, and they were making good passes. Norman Powell, Luke Kennard just missed 3s. It was a terrible ending of the quarter. Too many turnovers, including Zubats' turnover on that backward violation to John Wall that I mentioned earlier. And the Clippers just continued to play terribly in the fourth quarter. And the most appalling thing of all was when they still had the 3 guards, there was no resistance really. They were getting outworked, out-rebounded, couldn't hit open shots. Paul was still making the right reads when he was getting doubled, and the Clippers were still missing. Ty Lue, around the 8-minute mark, his solution was to put in Reggie Jackson and go with 4 guards. I couldn't believe my eyes in that moment. I thought the Clippers deserved to lose when he did that, truly. And it didn't get any better. The Clippers continued to go down, and then the comeback happened, and you know the rest. But moral of the story, to go to 4 smaller guards, and you might be wondering, he's got to be doing this for a reason. I think it's to lean into the fact that our offense hasn't been good. I think he's like, the offense has not been great. We want to put in guys that can shoot the ball, that can make plays, but it's just too small on defense, and teams are switching everything when the Clippers are on offense because they can, because there's no mismatches out there. It's forcing guys, bench players, to go one-on-one, and it's tough. Because usually Paul George and Kawhi are not playing in these units that I'm talking about with multiple small guards. Now, sometimes Paul George can be out there, but then it just makes Paul George have to go one-on-one because all the screen teams are just going to switch. Now, Robert Covington not playing, the wing approach, the guard versus wing, going to be talking about that even more coming up. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right. So, moral of the story, the Clippers with another great comeback win. You've got to love the heart of the team. But it was pretty lucky. The Clippers outscored the Pistons 14-3 in OT. Paul George got it going by scoring the first 5 points in overtime, and that set the tone. Luke Kennard also hit some big shots in that overtime session. And I think the life was just sucked out of the building for the Clippers to go on a run like that. 3 minutes left in the game to come back from 14 down is amazing. But the Clippers need to... I'm actually a little bit concerned. I can't lie. I'm a little concerned about Ty Lue's small ball conviction with the small guards. It's really, the evidence is right in front of them. They have so many analytics guys and stuff like that to see this. The only approach I can think of is the shooting because the offense has been bad. But I don't see that the Clippers are generating very many good looks like this. Teams are going to switch everything and make John Wall, Norman Powell go one-on-one. And that's okay if the Clippers frequently target the weakest defender on the other team, but it's still very stagnant ISO ball. And I know what you might be thinking. Well, Kawhi didn't even play. Relax. We're going to be playing without Kawhi a lot. It's just the nature of the load management situation. So the Clippers, in that case, need to optimize this amazing roster better. And here's the thing. I'm going to mention it again. Jerry West said we have so many wings and guys with length on the roster before the season, and we can switch. When Luke Kennard, Norman Powell, and John Wall are switching on guards and forwards on other teams, it's basically, who do I think I have a better chance of scoring against? As opposed to when it's Nico, Rocco, and Terrence, it's either way, I'm screwed either way. It's going to be tough to score regardless. Robert Covington has now been exiled to the bench. I heard he had some issues with COVID and it's taken him some time to recover, but he's got way too many DNPs this season. He needs to be involved a little bit more. I know he hasn't played very well to start the season, but he needs to be out there for size purposes because he really helps make the small ball go. He's got great size, can spread the floor. And also, if Rocco's not good to go, Amir Coffey should be playing. There's no reason why the Clippers need to play only 9 guys in a game with Kawhi not playing. Just Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, John Wall, and Norman, 3 guards and Terrence? I mean, nah. Robert Covington and Amir should be playing. You even saw at the end of the game where Amir Coffey helped and then recovered. You can see the difference in his length and size. He's there on the contest. He's making a much bigger difference than guards like John Wall, Norman Powell, and Reggie are closing out. That's just the size. I rest my case. I think the Clippers are going to be fine. 20-15, it's great they got a win. But I want to see the Clippers lean into this wing thing. I thought we were a wing stop, not guard stop. I'm going to keep saying that. And Toronto, they got a whole lot of wings. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, even like guys like Chris Boucher can guard a whole bunch of guys. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a little, not a homecoming, but, Kawhi Leonard did some great things there. Norman Powell did great things there, winning that championship. So it's going to be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have an episode, obviously, after that one as well. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dime Dropper. I think I'll be going live after the Toronto game on Dime Dropper for the first time since before the World Cup. So check me out on there. Also, answer today's pinned question because remember, it's the fastest way to grow this show if you continue to comment. Comment on today's pinned question. What's the biggest issue with this team? We've gotten past the health thing. Because 20-15 is good, but there's no reason why the Clippers should have been in that situation tonight. What do you think is the biggest issue? Let me know. Peace out. You know the age-old proverb, go Clippers. Any win in the NBA is a good win. We'll take that one. My player of the game, going to go with Paul George, just because he's our leader. He did it at the end. 32 points, 4 rebounds, 11 assists. 11 assists for Paul George. 3 steals on 9 for 19 shooting. 2 for 7 from deep, but my favorite statistic of the game, 12 for 14 at the foul line. Double-digit free throw attempts for Paul George. And I'm going to end it with that. Good night, Clipper Nation, or good morning, whenever you may be listening. Go Clippers.